Hi, this is Andy, and today I'm going to be talking about New Orleans jazz. And jazz is a big word, and to many it may just sound like another musical genre, but it goes way deeper than that.
Jazz expresses core American values: freedom, risk-taking, cultural diversity, innovation, creative collaboration, and democracy.
Today I'm covering New Orleans jazz, but there's another important genre that leads to it, and it was called ragtime. Ragtime is the beginning of shifting stiffer rhythm to a bouncy rhythm, and oftentimes you will see jazz pianists, they will play a twinkling light and fast melody with syncopated rhythm, while the left hand do a very consistent 1 and 3 movement. So ragtime marked the beginning of changing rigid dance music like polka, march, the quadrille, and the mazurka to a much more bouncy dance feel. It's the feel of the rhythm that define the changes between ragtime and a quadrille. And from the example, you can tell that ragtime was much more bouncy than a quadrille, which is very rigid. So why just huge marching band instruments? And these have to date back to the Spanish and American War in 1898.
Jefe, mata al americano.
Wait, whoa. Are you telling him to kill me?
No, mata al americano ese Guatemalan rice dish, ¿ok? Con la pistola, bang, bang, ahora, bang, bang.
Okay. See,
So Federal Army returned to the US from Cuba through the ports of New Orleans, and they brought in a flood of marching band equipment and dumped the equipment at the pawn shop. And the black people bought those instruments at a cheap price and began playing ragtime their own way. The beginning of New Orleans jazz is much later to the African slave trade, and the first slave trade happened in 1619 by Dutch sailor. Most of the Africans are from West Africa, like Ghana, Guinea, and Senegal. The slaves, however, are not commoner, but rather priests and king who led the tribal performance and the ritual in their homeland. They eventually become the leading performer in the New World, which is in America. And music play a big part in daily life of Africans. The father of jazz, Buddy Bolden, is one of the key icons of New Orleans jazz. He grew up listening to marching band, and he started learning cornet at the age of 17 from his neighbor. And he go to church to learn the spiritual blues feel.
Come on.
Silver and gold, silver and gold. Oh, I'd rather have cheese
Come on, y'all.
than silver and gold.
And eventually, he combined these three elements, which is marching band, the blues from the church, and the improvisation from Africa. And that eventually become New Orleans jazz. So New Orleans jazz is famous for its collective improvisation, also known as the New Orleans polyphony. And the idea came from African music with their collective improvisation and interlocking rhythm. Here's a video. Traditionally, there are three frontline instruments, and they are trumpet, clarinet, and trombones. And each instrument has their own role to play in the music. The trumpet will play the melody, the clarinet will play the fill-ins and outlining the chords, and the trombones will play bass line. However, these roles are not rigid, and the instruments are free to improvise and embellish around the note they play. So let's talk about collective improvisation in today's context. Improvisations are used in many musics. For example, free jazz, made famous by Ornette Coleman. But they were also used in blues music or jazz music or any music that allow extended improvisations. And the ideas of collective improvisation today are mostly was to intensify the dynamics of the music. So in conclusion, ragtime marked the beginning of changing a stiffer rhythm to a bouncy rhythm. It is bouncy, it is syncopated, but it has got no improvisations and no blues. So Buddy Bowden's combined these elements of marching band, improvisation, blues into what we know as New Orleans jazz. New Orleans marks the beginning of the jazz feel that we know today. And New Orleans is famous for its collective improvisations, also known as the New Orleans polyphony. So these characteristics from New Orleans jazz are being widely used in the music today, especially music that allow extended improvisations. And that's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share to a friend if you think this knowledge is important for them.